take a second and think about your hair right now, the way you've styled it for years, maybe even decades, the same general shape with perhaps a few small updates along the way, but fundamentally the same approach you settled into a long time ago. You probably chose that style because a hairdresser suggested it once years ago, and it felt right at the time, or because a friend or family member wore it beautifully and you liked how it looked on her, or honestly, simply because it's what you've always done, and changing feels riskier than staying with the familiar. Here's an uncomfortable question I want you to sit with for a moment. Has anyone ever in your entire life actually looked closely at the shape of your face and the shape of your head before choosing that style specifically for you? Not just glanced at you and suggested something popular, but genuinely studied your particular proportions and made a deliberate, informed recommendation based on your unique structure. For most women, if we're being completely honest with ourselves, the answer is no. And that single missing step, the one nobody ever properly walks us through, whether in a salon chair or anywhere else, is quietly the reason so many of us feel like our hair just doesn't sit right, no matter how skilled the stylist was, no matter how good the actual haircut technique might have been. It was never really about the quality of the haircut itself. It was about whether that haircut was ever genuinely matched to your specific face and head shape in the first place, or whether it was simply applied to you the way it would be applied to anyone else walking through that door. Today, over the next half hour, I'm going to walk you through exactly how to identify your own face and head shape in real detail, using nothing more than a mirror and a few minutes of genuine attention, and then show you precisely which styling choices work in harmony with your particular shape, and which ones are quietly, silently working against you every single day without your awareness. And the head shape section specifically, the part almost nobody in this entire industry ever properly explains, even to clients paying for premium salon services, is the one that's going to genuinely surprise you today. Stay with me through this entire video because by the end of it, you're going to understand your own hair and your own head far better than most stylists have ever bothered to explain to you across your entire lifetime. Welcome back to Elegant Beyond 60, the channel built on one simple, unwavering belief, that looking beautiful after 60 was never about spending more money. It was always about knowing more information, the kind nobody ever properly sits us down and actually teaches us, leaving us instead to simply guess, follow trends, or default to whatever a stylist suggests without much explanation behind the reasoning. If you're new here, hello, truly, I'm so genuinely glad you found your way to us today, especially with this particular topic, because this is exactly the kind of foundational, empowering knowledge this entire channel exists to share with women exactly like you. And if you're one of our wonderful regulars settling in comfortably right now, welcome back. You already know we like to get to the actual root of why something works the way it does, rather than simply handing you a list of trendy style names and hoping one happens to suit you by chance. Today we're spending real unhurried time on face shape and head shape specifically, and how to finally style your hair in a way that's genuinely built around your own unique individual structure, rather than whatever happened to be popular, convenient, or simply the default suggestion the day you sat down in that particular salon chair years ago. This is honestly one of the most important foundational topics we have ever covered on this entire channel, because it fundamentally changes how you approach every single haircut decision from this day forward, for the rest of your life, not just for your very next appointment. Before we settle in and get started properly, if you've ever walked out of a salon appointment feeling like something was just slightly off, even though the cut itself technically looked perfectly fine in the mirror, do me a quick favor and tap that subscribe button right now, before you get absorbed in everything coming up and forget entirely. It costs you absolutely nothing, and it genuinely helps this small channel keep reaching more women exactly like you every single week. While your hand is already there, tap the like button too, because it tells me precisely what topics matter most to you, and helps this exact video find other women who need to hear this information just as much as you do. Alright, get comfortable because we have real meaningful ground to cover together today, and we're starting with identifying your face shape first, since everything else we discuss today builds directly on top of that foundation. Let's begin here, taking our time, because this is genuinely the foundation everything else in this video builds upon. Pull your hair back completely away from your face, using a headband or simply your hands, and look directly into a mirror positioned in good, even natural lighting rather than harsh overhead lighting that can distort how features actually read. What you're looking for here is straightforward once you know what to focus on. Trace the outline of your face carefully in your mind, starting from your hairline and moving down to your jaw, and pay close attention to three specific things as you study your reflection. The width of your forehead compared directly to your jawline, whether your cheekbones represent the widest point across your entire face or not, and whether your jaw itself reads as soft and gently rounded or whether it has more defined, noticeable angles at the corners. Most women fall into one of 5 general categories, and I want to walk through each one thoroughly so you can place yourself confidently and accurately. An oval face is slightly longer than it is wide, with a jaw that's gently narrower than the forehead above it, and this particular shape is often considered the most naturally balanced starting point among all 5 categories. A round face has soft, relatively similar width running all the way from the forehead down to the jaw, with gently curved edges throughout and no sharp angles appearing anywhere along the outline. A square face has a strong, clearly defined jawline that's roughly the same width as the forehead above it, with more noticeable, distinct angles appearing at the corners of the jaw specifically. A heart-shaped face has a noticeably wider forehead that gradually narrows down to a more pointed, narrower chin at the bottom. And a long face is noticeably longer overall than it is wide, often featuring a longer forehead area and a longer chin area compared to the other 4 shapes we've discussed. Please don't worry at all if you feel like you're sitting somewhere between 2 of these categories, rather than fitting perfectly into just one. Most real human faces are a soft, natural blend of characteristics rather than a perfect textbook example pulled straight from a diagram, and that is completely normal and expected. What genuinely matters here is identifying your general tendency and dominant characteristics, because that tendency is precisely what we'll use to guide all of the specific styling choices coming up in just a moment. Here's the underlying principle beneath everything we're about to cover together, and understanding this principle clearly will help everything else make intuitive sense as we go. Hairstyles work fundamentally by either adding width, removing width, adding length, or removing length at very specific points around the face, depending entirely on where the hair is cut, layered, or styled. When a particular style adds width exactly where your face is already at its naturally widest point, it inevitably exaggerates that existing width further. When a style adds length exactly where your face is already naturally longest, it similarly exaggerates that length rather than balancing it. The actual goal of face shape appropriate styling was genuinely never about changing your face in any way, and I want that to be completely clear. It's simply about creating a bit of gentle visual balance, softening any particular area that's more pronounced than the rest of your features, and gently building up visual interest in any area that's currently less pronounced by comparison. This is corrective styling in the very best, most respectful sense, working with what you naturally have rather than against it. Styling for a round face. If your face reads primarily as round based on what we just discussed, the overall goal becomes introducing some length and gentle angles specifically to balance out that natural softness and width already present. Height built specifically at the crown is genuinely your very best friend here, since it elongates the overall face shape the moment anyone looks at you, creating immediate visual balance without requiring any dramatic change to length. Avoid styles that deliberately add width right at the cheek level, such as a chin-length bob cut with absolutely no layering built in, since that specific combination directly emphasizes the roundness you're actually trying to gently soften rather than counteracting it. Instead, actively look for layers that begin below the chin line rather than at it, drawing the eye downward along the face and creating a sense of length rather than additional width. A side-swept fringe also works genuinely beautifully for a round face specifically, since the diagonal line it creates cuts directly across the natural roundness rather than echoing or reinforcing it, introducing exactly the kind of angular contrast a round face benefits from most. Styling for a square face. A square face specifically benefits enormously from softness introduced right around the jawline area, since that's precisely where the natural angularity of this face shape is strongest and most defined. Soft, wispy layers that fall gently right around the jaw help blur and soften that strong angle considerably without hiding or disguising it completely, which respects the natural strength of the jawline while still softening its overall visual impact. Avoid anything featuring a completely blunt, perfectly straight cut ending right at the jawline itself, since a hard straight horizontal line will directly echo the already strong horizontal line of the jaw, doubling down on the angularity rather than softening it in any meaningful way. A longer side-swept fringe works wonderfully here too, since it softens the forehead area specifically and draws a bit of visual attention gently away from the strong, defined jaw sitting below it. Styling for a heart-shaped face. Since a heart-shaped face is naturally widest at the forehead and gradually narrows down toward the chin, the overall goal becomes balancing that existing width by adding a bit of visual fullness lower down specifically near the jaw, while simultaneously softening the width present up top near the forehead. Side-swept fringes work genuinely beautifully here as well, since they soften a wider forehead area without cutting straight across it, in a way that would emphasize the width rather than minimize it. Actively look for styles featuring a bit of volume or layering, specifically starting at the chin or jaw level, which helps balance the naturally narrower lower half of the face against the wider upper half above it. Avoid styles that add significant additional volume, specifically at the crown or temple areas, since that particular placement will only emphasize the width you already naturally have up top, working against the balance you're trying to achieve. Styling for a long face. If your face reads as notably longer overall than it is wide, the styling goal shifts specifically toward adding width and gently reducing the visual appearance of that length. A full blunt fringe works absolutely wonderfully here, since it visually shortens the forehead area immediately and interrupts that overall sense of length running down the face. Avoid styles featuring a great deal of height deliberately built into the crown area, since any added height at the crown will only stretch the face further vertically, working directly against the balance you're hoping to create. Instead, actively look for styles incorporating waves or curls that add genuine width, specifically at the sides of the face, balancing out the natural vertical length present with some welcome horizontal fullness introduced through texture and movement. Styling for an oval face. If you fall into this particular category, genuinely wonderful news awaits you here. An oval face is widely considered the most naturally balanced shape among all 5 categories, and it can typically carry nearly any style beautifully without requiring much corrective adjustment at all. The main thing worth watching for here is simply avoiding styles so extreme in one particular direction, either excessive width or excessive height, that they inadvertently throw off the natural balance you already possess rather than complementing it. Alright, let's pause together here for just a moment because we're roughly at the halfway point of today's video, and I genuinely want to check in with you properly before we continue further. If you've just identified your own face shape, and you're already thinking about your next haircut appointment quite differently than before, comment below right now and tell me honestly which shape you landed on after going through everything we just covered. I read every single comment on this channel personally, and it truly genuinely helps me plan future videos around exactly what you and other viewers actually need most. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, now is a wonderful moment to do exactly that, especially since we're about to move directly into HeadShape, and this particular section is the part almost nobody in this entire industry ever properly explains, even in premium salons charging significant money for their services. And if this video has been genuinely useful to you so far, a quick like helps tremendously, since it tells the platform to actively show this valuable information to other women who need to hear it just as much as you needed to hear it today. Alright, let's settle back in comfortably and keep going together. Here's something genuinely surprising that most women, in my experience, have never once seriously considered throughout their entire lives. Your face shape, as important as it is, only tells half of the complete story when it comes to how your hair actually behaves and sits. The actual physical shape of your skull itself, specifically how flat or rounded it happens to be at the back, and precisely how it curves or doesn't curve at the crown, significantly affects how any given hairstyle actually sits and falls on your head, completely independent of whatever your face shape happens to be. 2 different women with genuinely identical oval faces can have very different head shapes underneath their hair entirely, and that structural difference alone, invisible to the eye until you actually feel for it, can make the exact same haircut look completely, noticeably different when applied to each of them respectively, despite their similar facial proportions. Run your hand gently and slowly over the back of your own head, right where your skull meets your neck at the base. Some heads have a noticeably flat area back there, easy to feel once you're specifically looking for it, while others curve smoothly and continuously all the way from the crown down to the neck without any flat section at all. Also pay careful attention to your crown specifically, meaning the very top of your head. Some crowns sit relatively flat when you feel them, while others have a more pronounced natural curve, or even a slight peak rising upward. Styling for a flatter back head shape. If you noticed a flatter area specifically at the back of your skull while feeling for it, certain very short, closely cropped styles at the back of the head can sometimes emphasize that natural flatness, making the entire head appear noticeably less three-dimensional when viewed from the side profile specifically. The fix here is surprisingly simple once you know about it. Leave just a little more length and texture specifically at the back of the head, even just an inch or 2 more than you might naturally leave at the sides, which effectively builds out that flat area visually and restores a more rounded, balanced silhouette when viewed from any angle, particularly from the side. Styling for a rounder back head shape. If your head curves smoothly and continuously without any noticeable flat area at all when you feel along the back, you generally have far more flexibility available with very short cuts specifically at the back, since the natural curve of your own skull is already doing the visual work that additional styling would otherwise need to accomplish for you. This is genuinely worth knowing clearly before your very next salon appointment, since it means you can seriously consider shorter, genuinely lower maintenance styling options at the back with real confidence, knowing your natural head shape supports that choice beautifully. Styling for a flatter crown. If your crown sits relatively flat rather than curved when you feel it directly, this is precisely why certain styles that look wonderfully voluminous and full on other women can end up looking oddly flat on top when you try the exact same style yourself, even while using identical products and styling tools. The fix here is specifically requesting layers cut directly into the crown area itself during your haircut, rather than relying entirely on styling products and blow-drying technique alone to create lift that the natural underlying shape of your head simply isn't providing any structural support for on its own. Let's bring everything we've covered together today, slowly and clearly, because I genuinely want this to change how you approach your very next haircut appointment. Not just today but for every appointment going forward. Identify your face shape first, whether that's round, square, heart-shaped, long, or oval, and choose styling elements deliberately that balance rather than exaggerate your natural proportions. Then, just as importantly, check your head shape carefully at both the back and the crown, and factor that structural information specifically into your decision about how short to go in certain areas, and where you might genuinely need a bit of extra length or targeted layering for structural support and visual balance. None of this requires expensive products or drastic changes to your current look. It simply requires walking into your very next salon appointment armed with real, accurate information about your own unique face and head shape, rather than requesting whatever style happens to be trending that particular season, or simply accepting whatever your stylist suggests by default without them ever really looking closely at your specific individual features and structure. If this video genuinely changed how you think about your own hair today, that is exactly why I make these videos every single week for women exactly like you. So before you go, please do me one more favor. Like this video so more women your age can discover it too the same way you just did. Drop a comment below telling me your specific face shape and head shape combination. I would genuinely love to know what you discovered about yourself today. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, now truly is the perfect time to do so. Because next week we're covering another overlooked detail that quietly changes how your entire look comes together as a whole. Thank you so much, genuinely, for spending this entire half hour with me today. You deserve a haircut that was actually thoughtfully chosen specifically for you, based on real understanding of your unique features, rather than simply handed to you without much consideration at all, and now you have exactly what you need to walk in and ask for it properly. I will see you warmly in the very next one.